Alright, so we've got the 3D drawing, or the AutoCAD 2D line drawing in here that we're going to use. And so I'm going to go ahead and create the topography now. Okay, so this is actually one of the easier parts, so I'm going to go to my Masking and Site and go to Topo Surface. And what it wants to do is it wants to place points at various elevations, right? But what we want to do is we want to create from import instance. It would take us a really long time to go and create all these points individually. It would drive you a little crazy. So you can go to create from import instance, and I'm going to select the import instance, and I can pick this guy, right? And it will ask me which layer would you like to use to create the topography from. So I'm just going to remove checks from everything but topo and click OK. And it's going to think for a minute, and it's going to go through and create the topography based on those lines, right? And notice that I only have one line here. It just interpolates the topography between them. You could have all those lines in there, but this kind of saves a little bit of memory. Alright, so I'm just going to hit check here. And so hitting check brings me back out into the project. That means I accept that topography, and you can see that it has created a topography for us. So once we have the topography, we can go ahead and take a look at some of its qualities. So one of it is this lovely brown color that we have, so I'm going to pick this guy. And in its properties over here, it has a material, and so by category it puts site earth on the sky. So I'm going to come over here and change that. So I'm going to left click to the right of the by category, and I'm going to come in and type in site and hit enter. And we just use site sand. Check use render appearance for shading, and I'm going to go to the appearance here, and it's quite yellow, so I like to bring the image fade down on that guy, and just give it some white. You can also look at the image if you want to. This is it. If you scroll down, that's like a 5 by 5 inch. Could make it maybe, let's make it a little fuzzy, 5 feet, and see what happens. And we'll click done, and I'll click OK, and so that'll update that to sand. So if you come in and sort of zoom in on this guy, oh, and turn it to realistic, sorry, you can see it's sort of sandy, but from a distance, you know, it looks okay. It's better than that brown, right? Okay, so let's look at a couple of different options that you have with the site. So one of the first things I'm going to do, just to make it a little clearer, is I'm going to pick the drawing, and I'm going to hide it by typing VH so we can just see the topography itself. So one of the things you want to do is we want to check out the sort of basic settings for the topography. So in the Masking and Site tab under Model Site is a down arrow, Site Settings. Okay, and you can come to these site settings, and these site settings determine how this guy is setting up, right? So we have contour line display at 10 feet, and then we have secondary contours at every 1 foot. So I could change that to a 2 foot increment and hit apply, and you'll see those update to 2 feet. Now you'll notice the start is at negative 200 feet. So if this were to start at 0 and apply, you'll see that you're not getting the secondary intervals because this is 0, and then there's really no topography above that. So you need to tell the secondary intervals where to start. So at negative 200, I can do maybe negative 20 feet and apply. You can see it's now only going down 20 feet. So there are some settings that you need to. Now you could set your primary ones at 2 feet and just have 2-foot intervals, so but that's up to you. So here is the section cut material. So the section cut material for this is actually separate from the material application for the top of it, right? So if you left click on here, you can update the section cut material, right, to be the same as your site, or you can just leave it at site earth, which in this template for you I've made with a solid fill gray. So it's up to you. And the elevation of the poche base, so I'm just going to click OK here, and I'm going to cut a section through this guy. So I'm going to go to my site plan, right? I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to my view tab, and there's a section command, and I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to left click where I want to start the section. So I'll just start the section maybe over here, and then I'll left click over here. It's got a short little section cut, but that's okay. And then I'm going to double click on the end of it to take me into that section. So what it means by poche base is this guy right here. So it's only going down 40 feet, for that poche base. So if you wanted it to go further, you would need to go to your massing and site, go down to the right hand and say, no, I want that to be at negative 200 feet. Okay, and hit apply. All right, and then it would actually section the whole thing. I think it's set to negative 10 feet by default. All right, so that's pretty much the settings and getting the topography in.